Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for tuning into my weekly guitar blog. It's May 12th, 2013, and this week we're going to cover exercises for finger picking on electric guitar. And this question was sent in from Harris. He's in Japan, and he wrote in with this email to me. I would like to be able to play in the style of Mark Knopfler since Dire Straits is one of my favorite bands, but I just can't manage to copy his right-hand technique, and I can't play well without a pick. Mark plays with his thumb and first two fingers, and it looks easy, but when I try to do the same, it sounds like a mess. Do you have any advice on how to practice picking like this on electric guitar? Thank you for any type of help, and best wishes from Harris in Japan. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, Harris. Playing electric guitar, finger-plucked style, like Mark Knopfler, for instance, is certainly different if your main source of guitar, pluck and strum, hand training, has perhaps always centered around playing with a flat pick. The finger-plucking technique of using only the thumb, along with the index and middle fingers, might take some time to develop. So to help you along with the training, I've composed a collection of exercises that will be an excellent way to help to get you going with this particular playing style. When it comes to finger plucking with that classic electric Mark Knopfler sound, we need to start off with gaining control over the accurate use of the thumb, index, and middle fingers of the strumming hand. Now, if you're not familiar with the notation system used for the fingers of the plucking hand, it's the letter P for the thumb, the letter I for the index finger, and the letter M for the middle finger. And these come from the Spanish words for these fingers and are the exact words of pulgar, indice, and medio. Now, in my first exercise, I'll be demonstrating how to pluck through chords on a short progression from the key of F major. And the study works like this. We're going to have a F major chord on the top three strings at frets 5, 6, and 5. And then we're going to move over to an A minor. That's the fourth through second strings, frets 7, 5, 5. And then we're going to move up to an B flat major. And we'll be using the frets of 8, 7, and 6 on those same strings, moving down on the same strings again to a bar at the 5th fret to cover a C major. So the chords will be F major, A minor, B flat major, and C major. And the fingering that we're going to utilize on the strum and pluck hand here will be thumb, index, and middle for each of those. And the idea is just to be able to track across each of those chords and follow the cycle of chords through a study. It's very consistent. It should be fairly easy to play. It's going to take some time to get smooth, but it'll help you be able to track your thumb, index, and middle fingers into the appropriate string sets that you would like to use. So after the tracking is done, and you spent time working on that plucking technique to track those fingers onto correct strings, we're going to move on next to examine how to track through and arpeggiate the same chords that were used in the first exercise. Now, the approach that we're going to use here is one of tracing through the chords using an economical plucking hand fingering that will efficiently track each tone found within each chord. It's very important to go slowly if this type of study is perhaps new for you, and be sure that each finger effectively plucks the correct tone of every chord as you practice. Now here's how this exercise will operate. We're just going to go up and down the F chord from third string to first and then back to second. Move up to the next chord, the A minor, and then into the B flat, and then across over to the C. So it's pretty much the same exercise that we had started with the first example, but this time we're plucking each note. And the fingering is for the strumming plucking hand is going to be thumb, index, middle, index, and it'll continue along the same thumb, index, middle, index. It's pretty much a idea of tracking string by string with how each of those chords comes across. And one thing I forgot to mention on the first exercise is be very careful that your thumb has its own travel area away from the index and middle fingers. A very common problem that I'll notice with students around the studio here, when they first get into finger plucking, their thumb drifts sort of into the travel path of those index and middle fingers there. It's creates some sloppy technique. You want to have that thumb out in front and have those other fingers to curl into the palm of the hand, and it'll make a much more efficient pluck pattern for you. So that's exercise number 2. Now Now, the next idea I'd like to work on takes into account how we can use chord shapes once again, and to be clear, these will, once more, be the same chords that we use from exercises 1 and 2. But now we'll be striking a bass note, and then above the bass note, we'll perform a small double stop pluck on the upper part of the harmony. You'll find players like Mark Knopfler apply this style of plucking to many chord harmonies in their songs. It's a very cool sounding idea, so let's run it down and give you a chance to hear what this study exercise sounds like. Same chords, of course, as before, but now we're just going to strike the bass note with the thumb, and then we're going to be going into the upper tones of the chord with index and middle fingers. So you keep it nice and simple, work on clarity and tracking each tone. It's a great way to study getting these techniques into your playing. So far we've looked at the full pluck of the chord. We've looked at tracing the notes. And we've looked at a separation between bass and treble of the same chord tones. And that's an excellent start with those first 3 exercises alone. But from here, I'd like to move on to single note playing using this finger pluck approach. Now, this idea of playing single note lines, in which guitar players will adopt it, it's a very free-form manner, which is quite different as to how, for instance, a properly trained classical guitarist would approach single note line playing. See, in using the fingers with classical technique, a pattern of economy of movement is the primary focus. However, with this more free-form approach, patterns of the fingers are applied more in respect as to how a player might wish the tone of the string to come across. So the thumb might be applied to generate a warmer tone, or an index or middle finger might be used to create a string pop. So it's a punchy dynamic that comes from the note and the string. Now, in my next exercise, I have a short melody that uses a specific pluck hand pattern to perform a single note melodic line. And here's how the line operates, performed using the index and middle fingers as well as the thumb for the bass notes. Now, we're going to start off with the line on the 5th fret of the 3rd string. We're going to play that first note with index finger, then we're going to hit 6th fret, slide it up to 8, then back to the 6, 5, 6, 5, and then we're going to strike a 7th fret on the 4th string to finish the first measure. Then we'll climb up. Those warm notes on the 4th string are being played with the thumb. And then we're going to travel to the 2nd string, get 6th fret, 8th fret. So it'll go up a 6, 8, 6, 8, 10, 11, and it'll wind up on the 9th fret of 3rd string with the thumb playing that last note. So we'll have on the second measure a line that goes like that. So here's both of the parts now put together, this 2 measure phrase. It goes like this. Now, in my last exercise, I'll be performing a longer single note melody line. The fingering used on my pluck hand will be specifically to generate a couple of very unique sounds. When I perform the melodic example, pay particular attention to the louder dynamics generated by the use of my index and middle fingers throughout the first 2 measures, and then listen carefully to the last measure in this melodic line, because it wraps up in that final measure using the thumb on the last group of 4 notes to create a soft, warm color on that 5th string. Now, the technique used to achieve the sound that's heard through this melody is a big part of the reason why so many guitar players prefer the execution of this finger pluck idea over the use of a flat pick. It would most certainly be next to impossible to create so many different dynamics using a flat pick. Only through the use of finger plucking or perhaps hybrid picking can this choice of sound become a part of your guitar playing. So here's how the fingering from my last exercise works when it's all broken down. We're going to start with a bend release slide off the 10th fret of 2nd string, and then we'll move into a pull off. And we'll wind up on 3rd string, 10th fret. We'll go from the 10th fret, 4th string with the thumb plucking that note. So you get a nice warm tone out of that one. And then we're going to climb up on the 3rd string, 7, 9, 10, over across the 2nd string for the 8th fret, then back to the 3rd string with a pull off from 9 to 7, striking 7 again. Then we'll slide 7 to 5, striking 5 again. And then we'll walk down the 4th string, 8, 7, 5. And then we'll carry over to the 5th string with 7th fret, 5th fret, and then wrap it up into the C note on the 3rd fret. So here's the whole part. Well, as I mentioned at the start of this video lesson, if playing with a flat pick has been your primary way of picking through chords and through single note melody lines, then switching over to a finger-plucked method, something in and along the lines of the style of Mark Knopfler, will take quite a lot of retraining. The main thing to keep in mind is that you'll be judging the appropriate use of each finger more upon the type of dynamic and color that you'll want to have generated by the fingers, and techniques like string pops, for example, and louder plucked notes will tend to jump out more from plucks done by the index and middle fingers. More warmth and softer tones are in turn generated from the use of the thumb. So place a strong focus upon the dynamics that can be generated when selecting the fingering for musical ideas. Also, for further study on this topic, be sure to watch my creative guitar lesson videos titled Fingerpicking on Electric Guitar, and also the video lesson Funky Guitar String Popping. Those videos will be an excellent accompaniment to this one. Well, anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.